Welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast. I'm PJ Noodleman, joined by my co-host from the Midwest Racing Connection, Mr. Dan Plant. Hello, Dan.
Hello, good to be here again. Looking forward to talking with the Hammer.
The Hammer, that is our guest tonight, Eric Huenefeld. He has microphone. He will travel. Welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are an interesting character. I think the first time that I ever heard you on the mic was at Rockford Speedway. But I know that is that where you started? Did you start at Rockford?
Not at all. It's kind of funny because I mean, obviously that's where pretty much everybody knows me. Kind of where everything took off. But I started. So this summer will be my 25th year of announcing races. Um,
Wow.
Yeah. So my first year or so, when I started out, my dad, who, we went to the races all the time anyway, for the first year or so, he was driving me to the races and I worked. I started, I kind of pestered my way in to helping out at Freeport Raceway here in Freeport, where I live now, 10 minutes from where I grew up. um, and that was the summer of 2000. So I was 15. Um, Worked there, showed up there. They paid me the whole time, so I was working. And always have made sure I got paid through the years. But did that. The
What
next
did you
year,
do there then? Did you actually announce at
yes,
15?
I did. I did. I helped out. It's one of those deals where, like I say, I was, you know, you're young and you're pushy and you think you should do something. So I probably persisted my way into helping. But the Gills, Randy and Virginia, who own the track, were pretty nice to me. Let me do it. I don't know that the person that I worked with was also keen on the idea. And looking back on it now, I kind of get that. But whatever, it was fun. I mean, my so background a little bit. Um, on my mom's side of the family, her dad uh, built engines, had race cars. They had cars from the 70s till 15, 20 years ago. My uncle, for whom my aunt married, was a race car driver, all that sort of stuff, all based in Freeport. And then on my dad's side, uh, they're just kind of fans. So there's always I was always kind of around it. I didn't just come into it. I I was born in December of '84, and I venture to say I was probably at a race in April of '85. One way or the other. So that's kind of how that started. That's Freeport was home. And I got started there the next year. This is funny too, when you look back on it. I sent an email. I remember doing it. I think it was in homeroom at school, to the people who promoted at Lafayette County Speedway at the time in Darlington, Wisconsin, across the border about 45 minutes away. I work there now once again. I reached out to the promoters. They emailed me back, "Oh yeah, come up. We'd love to have you help." Okay. So I show up on the opening night and there's three other guys there announcing. So there's four of us. There's five divisions. There's four announcers. It's like
Whoa.
what's going on? Yeah, right. So most everybody was pretty good about it, and it kind of whittled it down to where eventually a couple years later, I think I was the only guy left. But that group was done promoting there in 2003, and then whatever. But so I mean, that's kind of in a sense, that's where I started here, close to home. Just probably how most everybody's story goes, kind of persistent and trying to get your way to do something. It's and I'm sure it's a topic we'll cover at some point again here, and we're talking. But it's unfortunate because I live closer to Freeport Raceway now than I ever did, but it's been closed for 12 years. So I kind of, people lose their home tracks, and it's happened to me a few times here. But it kind of it kind of hurts to go by there now and just kind of, and it's, you could, when we lived out of town when I was growing up, on the right night, you could hear the track 10 minutes away. So, I'm super close now, but it's long gone. But that's where the story started as far as the racing side of things. Even further back than that, um, I my first ever microphone job um, was in junior high. We had a freshman sophomore basketball tournament at my school, Dakota High School, a little school of about 300 kids. My uncle was the athletic director and basketball coach, and again persistent. Let me do the starting lineups. Let me announce. Da 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 da. Well, he finally turned me loose on the last day of the fresh soft tournament, and I was in eighth grade, I think. I don't know, and did that. Did it every now and again when I was in school, and kind of it was one of those deals where eventually, as far as the basketball games went at school at Dakota, that was something I came back and did PA for the games till I think 2020. And then after COVID and whatever else, it just kind of that was kind of like golf to me. I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I had a lot of fun, and it was kind of fun to go back to school. You know how I remember the first day I ever announced an event, and that was at Dakota. It was in February. I think it was 1998, and I only know this because it was the Busch Series race at Rockingham was the same day, and that was when Matt Kenseth won his first Busch Series race, and
Oh,
it
wow.
happened. And my uncle and I were talking about it afterwards. You see, he won that, blah, 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 blah. And that's I always look back to what day that was when that racing, because I can go, that was that day, the same day. So little racing tie-in with all that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you also have a career in radio. You and I have actually some similarities in that regard. I got my start on the microphone emceeing a donkey basketball game. Um,
I've seen one of those.
yeah. So,
Do they
and I was
still
in
do
high school.
those?
I don't think they do
I
anymore. I
think
don't
there
know.
is, yeah, I think that it's kind of double secret sort of things now,
Oh,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
get like thrown in jail.
well,
It's
yeah,
probably
animal
taboo to have
cruelty.
something like that these
Yeah,
days.
right.
PETA will clamp down on you.
Exactly. Well, I
That's
did that.
right.
I did that in high school. That was the first time I'd ever done something on the mic, and I don't even know how I
Uh,
ended up doing it. But I ended up kind of falling into my career in radio. And you also are on the radio, and you've been on the air for how many years now?
well, it goes back to about that same time too. I so the group I work for now, and we talk about radio, you can understand a lot of the things I'll say here. As far as the group I work for now is based in Monroe, Wisconsin, just across the border, cheese capital of the world, whatever. But at that time in 2002, so the summer of my senior year, they had two radio stations. And they added a third, and they had primarily been kind of a Wisconsin based, but the owner, who is still the owner now and is great, um, wanted to kind of get into the Illinois market. Well, here comes the third station, and I kind of know of some people through seeing people at games and at school and whatnot, and kind of, hey, you need any help? Here we go again. And so my opportunity to get into radio came when Q102 was born in August of 2002. And so I did. So actually, the first, and I kind of credit some as days go by. I credit some of the things maybe I do, whether it's play by play for racing or especially radio, to the fact that one of the first real tasks I had was on our AM station in Monroe. We were a Milwaukee Brewers affiliate, and I got to engineer a lot of games and listen to a lot of Bob Uecker. Uh, just work on his own and spin a yarn and all that sort of stuff. Um, so that's kind of where I learned the ropes of that sort of thing. Um,
Would
and
you say
then
he's
got
one of
turned.
your heroes, Euchre?
I mean, my gosh, he's almost 90 and he's still kind of throwing his fastball. You know what I mean? I mean, A, I hope to be alive at 90. And B, I hope I sound that sensical. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, it's always fun when you can drive around and I punch him on and and he's a maestro. But so that in December of '02, I did my first play by play on the radio of basketball. So I've been doing that more or less since then. I left radio a couple of times. 2007, because I was never full time till
Oh,
2012. Um, and a couple years, and then I had an opportunity to go work in racing, stepped away from radio. When I worked in racing, I always tried to stay in touch with, and I handled advertising stuff. So I always like to go back in the radio stations in Rockford and stuff because I'm just kind of a nerd and I always want to keep in touch. And got the call back to do play by play back in Monroe. Um, and then about 6 years ago, I got the call to come back and work here, do the morning show in Freeport, which I've been doing ever since, along with the sports. And you know how it is, and kind of a middle small. If you say yes, you're going to go do it at the radio station. So
yeah.
kind of how it is, and we've grown actually to I think 9 radio stations and 12 frequencies or whatever. We're Monroe, Beloit, Janesville, Freeport. But the nice thing is, and you'll appreciate this, is I can go see my boss in Monroe, and I'm not a number in Atlanta or Chicago. So they
Yeah.
they take good care of me, and I don't know if I do that anywhere but here, just because of, we're taken care of. It's home, all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. So that's actually, it's funny because yeah, maybe half the people around here that listen to me on the radio know that I do the racing thing, but I don't know that many of the racing people really know that I do the radio thing. Like, oh, you do
Ah.
other things? Well, yes, I do other things. You don't make anything in any of them, but you do them together and you make enough. No, but yeah, so that's
That's
kind of
important though too. I mean, if you're passionate about something, I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to be buying a mansion in Freeport anytime soon, but
there's
you
not
do
many of them here.
you do really enjoy what you do. And Eric, it comes through on that microphone. It really does.
Well, you got to. I mean, no matter what you're doing, I mean, firstly, if you're doing whatever you're doing, if you're miserable, it's no fun. But then my job, and other people's job like mine, um, you've got to be into it. You've got to be, that's the deal. It can't be NPR.
Yeah.
You've got to be that way. And if you're not passionate about it, and we've all probably been there, it comes through.
Yeah, it does. It does. You got to really have your energy high for
Right?
both the race announcing and the radio as
Yeah.
well
Do you
too.
Yeah.
do you slip some of your humor into your radio morning show like you do to your racing announcing?
I have to stay awake.
Yeah. One of my favorite, I won't mention the drivers. Several years ago at Madison during the Joe Shear Classic, there were two drivers that got into each other at the back of the pack. And I remember like the second time it happened, you're like, and these two drivers get together again for a torrid battle for 24th position. I'm thinking nobody in the stands heard that than me, right?
I heard it too. I heard it too.
I don't remember both drivers, but I do remember one of them.
Yeah,
And yeah, that
yeah.
was, and I think we were in a stretch where we just couldn't get nothing going, and they were kind of the reason. And it just kind of, I always say too, it's like, and I say this about, play by play, radio, racing, whatever. And sometimes people get, probably rightly so, PO'd about something I've said. And I go, everybody's looking at the same thing I'm looking at. What am I supposed to do? Lie to them? I mean,
Yeah.
you're thinking what I'm thinking, probably. But, you can't just be totally blunt and call people what you want to call them. You got to kind of dress it up a little bit. And
That's
I,
a nice
I
way
knew
to
you.
say it. Dress it up
Yeah,
a little
well,
bit.
I work in words.
What time do you have to get up for the morning show in Freeport then?
Too damn early, Dan.
Yeah.
No, and it's one of those things too. For that, I mean, I used to even get in a little earlier, but again, since COVID, things have changed. We've had people retire and this and that, and it's kind of not everything is done in my studio. My stuff is, and a lot of stuff gets kind of moved from Monroe to Freeport, whatever, they record it, they send it, all that stuff. So like there's no reason for me to be there as early as I used to be, but I'm still the alarm goes off at 4:30 and I'm there by 5:30. And that's plenty early, but I've kind of learned in way back when. It's funny when 10, 12 years ago, and I was just starting full time through it, and I'd fill in for folks, and I'd have to go into Monroe very early, like 3:30. And I said, I will never get up this early to go to work. And what am I doing 5 days a week now?
That's when I left radio, that was probably one of the best things was not having to get up. But it took me almost 2 years to where I would not wake up at that same time after 25 years of doing it. So
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
that to look
yeah. That
forward to.
and then there's the weekend where you really like to sleep in, and I have a 7-year-old and a dog and everything else, and there's no such thing as sleeping in. So kind of, yeah, you find your power naps here and there, I guess.
Your daughter, you mentioned her. She's 7 now, and so she
Mm.
probably kind of gets what dad does. Is she a race fan too? And does she have some favorites of drivers?
She she there's things that she likes and there's things that she doesn't, but as a whole, um, on the racing, especially I should say on the racing side, especially if dad's involved, it's a good thing. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some kind of we've kind of learned some of the noise, but like what would it have been? It might have been COVID year, and I come up and worked at lacrosse one of those nights, and she just loved it. It's because we got mufflers, we got things, we got playground, all that stuff. Um, my dad through the years can't get around quite as good as he used to, so at Rockford, when everybody'd show up, we'd be a couple rows from the track. Well, some of that she didn't care for, but Dad was there, so it was great, and
Mm.
she'd find things she liked. She likes midget racing. We met Logan Stevie when I worked in USAC. She was like 2 in a stroller, like flirting with him. And I'm like, really? But so like that's that's one of her. She always asked about Logan, and of course we still keep in touch. I don't know if we're friends, but we keep in touch. We talk,
Was she thrilled he
and
won the
and he's had
Chili
a heck of a
Bowl?
year.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't watching, you know, but no, oh, that's kind of cool.
How
But
did I was gonna say, how did you get involved with USAC the year you announced that series?
trying to think back of how that started. And that's that. I mean, and one thing I've kind of, I don't know if I prided myself on, but through about everything except maybe Freeport, um, I've always kind of been an outsider, um, and I've always kind of came in and I don't know if it's have something to prove, but you come in and nobody knows you, and to me, the pressure is on to make it work. That's kind of happened throughout my being. With USAC, I'm trying to think back how that actually. I think it was 2015 or 16. Um, I went with a friend of mine who actually helped them out and has worked a lot of places through the years. He's not in racing anymore, but he was helping USAC. It was their opening weekend in the Midwest in April. So I rode down with them without Kid at this point, of course, so I can go do those things. But we went to Lawrenceburg for the sprint car race, Indiana, on Saturday night. And then Sunday was the Silver Crown race at Terre Haute. And I don't believe there was a track announcer at Terre Haute that day. So it would have been Dylan Welsh, who was the USAC announcer at the time. Again, another guy that I keep up with, and he's really good at everything he does and has been kind of a cool guy to lean back on. He's younger than me, Dylan, but he's given me a lot of advice and I appreciate it all. But Dylan was working for USAC and I announced the modified race in support. 15 laps, couple of heats. We had Kenny Schrader, Kenny Wallace, whatever. But, so that was, again, you get in these spots and nobody really knows. And I thought, all right, we're going to put on a show here for 31 laps today. And I everybody kind of remembered me after that. Um, the end of that year, they needed somebody to work at the indoor race at DuQuoin in December, and I kind of hemmed and hawed about going, and the weather was kind of, and my wife actually pushed me to go. She said you should go do it, and that's kind of been a theme of some stuff in my life where I think of every reason I shouldn't do something. And she goes, well, this is what you do. So it's good to have support. So I
Good
went down
woman.
and I totally outkicked the coverage on that one. But went to DuQuoin, did what we do. Um, and then as it turned to the next year, Dylan went to start doing his stuff with MRN, NBC, all that sort of stuff. They had the opening. And I jumped onto as many races as I could for it was 2017 and 2018. And that was a big one for me. And I've done this for a long time, and people will, oh, you've been so, this and that, and we'll bring up things I've done, you know, 10, 12 years ago. But to me, I kind of look back on it here over these last few years where things have kind of taken off in another kind of dimension for me with some of the stuff I end up doing. And those 2 years with USAC were pretty big. I worked with good people, which helped. Um, Out kind of on that national scene, kind of learning that way of doing things and seeing some pretty kick-ass racing too, I might add, and being around some pretty kick-ass drivers, getting out along, we went to Pennsylvania, we went to Kansas, Oklahoma, da 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 da. And my first true and tried USAC race was again in Lawrenceburg a year later. A sprint car race in Indiana, which again, you got to be ready. And I thought, if I am not right, if I am subpar at a sprint car race in Indiana, those people are going to chew me up and spit me out. They're going to sense a fake from a mile away. So again, I went and did, I think, what I can do. And it's funny because if you remember on the movie Hoosiers, um, before Norman Dale coaches his first game, he kind of leans on the door before he goes into the gym and he goes, "Welcome to Indiana basketball." Then he opens the door, and everybody's in there. It's a whole scene. Before I open the press box door at Lawrenceburg, I kind of lean on it and I go, "Welcome to Indiana open wheel racing." And I walk in, you know, and it just kind of, and it was a good fit. It just, kind of at that time in my life, as Charlotte was born and growing and all that sort of stuff. And then at the end of that second year at USAC, that's when the radio station called me back to work full time. And I was in Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas for a week. I announced on Saturday night in Fairbury, Nebraska, drove home that Sunday, and I went to work for my first day on that Monday in
Wow.
2018.
Did you have to
So
drive to all those USAC races from
I don't know if
Freedom?
I had to, but I did.
Okay. Well, I mean, USAC's a pretty big deal, but I'm guessing they don't have their own charter jet that they could just fly and pick up Eric to bring to Pennsylvania or something, right?
I never see them, and they never flew to Albertus Airport in Freeport either. So, yeah, no, I drove, on like the Pennsylvania trip. The whole group went. That was the infamous Charlotte flirts with Logan. Which, by the way, the same day that my daughter met Logan Seavey was the same night that he rode the fence. The famous
Oh, yeah.
Sports Center top 10. That's the same night, and
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, all that, but yeah, it is fun, and that's the traveling deal like that. And I say about all this stuff I've done, whether it's the ASA crate stuff, back when, my God, 2009, the USAC stuff, the NASCAR thing I'm doing now at Gateway, whatever. I've gotten to see stuff because of racing I probably never would have seen otherwise. Go out and see the world. So that's kind of a neat perk of it too, I guess, when you look at it.
Is there a series that you would love to be able to at least have a crack at doing one race for? Or do you kind of
You know,
feel like you're good where you're at?
you know, so generally, as I approach 40, which, in a sense, PJ, in our business, you can go till 80, let's be honest.
Mhm.
But I really, in a sense, I also know nowadays stuff moves really fast. Time moves fast. Young people get younger, old people get older quicker. I don't want to overstay my welcome. So I know that I've probably got a lot more time behind me than in front of me, especially if I want to be who I think I can be and not just be there because I think I have to be there. I've been pretty lucky to do a lot of stuff, pinch hit here and there, things like that too, where I've gotten to do a lot of the stuff I'd like to do. Um, if opportunities come about where a guy could, you know, get out and do something full time, um, nationally or something, it would be something to look at, but it's all got to work. If I were 10 years younger, it would probably be a lot more of a slam dunk without a family, without a kid, without a life, whatever. And that would be great. And maybe it still happens, but it's not quite the slam dunk that it might have been 10 years ago. But if it ended tomorrow, um, I'd be happy. I think, I don't know if I'm ever happy, but I mean, I'd be satisfied with the places the thing has taken me.
I have a question that was submitted by a friend,
Yes.
a mutual
We got a
friend.
caller on the line right
Yeah,
now.
well, it's sort of like that. I got to find it here because it was a text when he found out that we were going to be talking
Is
with
he
you.
the president of my fan club, perhaps?
I'm not sure. And now, if this is a question that you don't want to answer, you can just plead the fifth or say pass. But there's two things he wanted me to mention. And the first
Yes.
was to ask
It's
you
a he.
about
It's a he. All right, we
it's a
got that
he.
narrowed down. It's right on track. Okay.
Ask him about Mexico versus USA soccer at Rockford.
Yes. So
I
that's
don't.
question one.
Yep.
No,
You
so
want?
so yeah, I'll go with that one first. And you
Okay.
questioned. I know who submitted this, by the way. But and he's not. He might be the vice president of the fan club. So Night of Thrills, um, at Rockford, which is always big, and we'd pack them in, and we'd have a lot of goofy stuff, along with the monster trucks and jet cars and all that. And auto football. Y'all remember that through the years. We I don't know somehow, and you know David Deary, so he found this giant, like, just I don't know what it was made of. It's like a soccer ball. Like, so we painted it like a soccer ball. We painted it black and made it a hockey puck. When the Ice Hogs and Rockford sponsored something, so it was auto hockey. Well, this was auto soccer, and it's kind of up to me to make whatever the hell's happening happen. so so we decided it would be Team USA and Team Mexico. And I don't know, you have to watch the video, I guess, to truly get the humor. But it's one of those deals where, like, and a lot of the same people, it might have been the only event they came to, but, like, I can't believe it was a surprise that we did this every year. But so then, it drags on, and I really have got them going pro USA. We're chanting USA, the whole thing. It's just, it's madness. Yeah, you could seek out the video, and I know that you'll get a kick out of at least a couple of things. But it's just, I always, the Night of Thrills stuff or the trailer races or stuff like that. Um, some people hated them, at the track, whatever, drivers, whatever. Well, they're not real. And I said, firstly, with the trailer races, and I think lacrosse does the same thing, races an actual show and then does the trailer race. And I said, now, guys, this is kind of like your county fair race. Everybody's here, and I don't know if they're here to see you, but they'll remember you. So put on a show. And then Night of Thrills was awesome because we might have raced one division and we did all this other goofy stuff. And it was just me and a shot sheet and a microphone standing on a wall by the finish line, just making crap up for 3.5 hours. And it was fun. And I was exhausted after every one of them, but I always enjoyed those nights. So that's question one. Does he have another one?
He does actually, wanting to know if you could elaborate more on things you should not crash with a car.
Things you shouldn't hit with cars. We did a couple of those. And again, you just need to watch the video. And by the way, my favorite part of YouTube videos of some of the stuff at Rockford is the experts that don't go and
Mm.
or don't get the concept, and they're like, this guy's the worst announcer ever. And I might be. But I'm not trying to be Mike Joy during this Night of Thrills. All right, we're just screwing off. Just I don't know what these people want, but internet commenters are the most miserable 2% of people on earth. Um, but Again, this is, and you should watch the video. And the first one was the best, as usual. We were rolling out all way, and whatever crap David accumulated that was sitting behind turn two, we roll it out and we'd hit it with cars, piano, like lounge sets for the poor. I don't know, just all sorts of stupid stuff. The Power Wheels cars, and you hit them with cars. And some things were spectacular, some things sucked, but that's kind of the fun of it too. If there was so in this same vein, and this was when Greg McCarnes was still at Rockford too. We had a night of thrills in the summertime, and what on earth what was it? I don't remember what the name of it was per se, but the concept was we put airbags inside of stuff, and
Okay.
with like frickin' whatever to blow it up. I mean, we're gonna blow this stuff up, right? We're gonna whatever, and hillbilly fun with airbags. That's what it was. So and we were I'd had a big 8 race the Friday night, so we weren't around, but David and his band of merry men were practicing this out in the quarry at Rockford the night before. It's going to be big. We had these big explosions, so that's all I know. So I'm building it up. Here we go. Here it comes. Get ready. And first, here we go. Whatever. We're going to blow up a chair or something. First thing, it didn't do anything. The second one doesn't do anything. And then everybody just kind of silent. And I get on the microphone and I say, "It's okay to boo." And everybody boo. It's just we're just dying. But
Oh,
again,
funny.
that's yeah, that's the other nice thing about when we did September Night of Thrills at Rockford was you went through the regular season, all the stress, all the drama, all the BS you get sometimes racing weekly, and that was just a night to let loose. I mean, never to worry about points or nothing like that. Just had fun, like that. You know.
Yeah.
Mm,
You mentioned Rockford Speedway. Obviously, that's kind of the elephant in the room now here for you. I mean,
mm,
they have closed their doors. Just kind of a sign of the times with the way that
yeah.
the property kind of just got encroached upon more and more and more. What is that
Mm.
like personally for you to see kind of your own playground close up? I mean, what was that like?
Another
That had been hard.
an, another one of my playgrounds.
Mm.
I've got two of them gone now. But it so I knew about it before everybody else, so to speak. This time last year I knew about it and nobody else really did. And then it happened, and I wasn't quite as shocked as everybody else, which I already was shocked the first time because it kind of you always knew that probably was going to happen, but I mean, people can say what they want. There was very little danger of it happening, so to speak. Like things were drawn up as they can. I mean, why wouldn't it be? But I didn't know for 2 years it was going to happen. It just kind of I mean, as you said, it's a sign of the times. And if you get offered a certain thing to do a certain thing, especially in this world right now, if you can get it, you'd be dumb not to do it. But with that being said, um, you know, well, this year was cool because, and it was a little morbid, but the fact that there was so many people that showed up that had not been around for a long time, or you know, whatever that came to the track that you saw. It was kind of a neat reunion sort of thing, to see these people and they came back, da 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 da. And it was always on everybody's mind. And I always said when they knocked down the lodge, that's when it's going to start hitting home. And that happened in October. Of course, the developer couldn't wait till racing was over and had to level it on the weekend of Bahama Bracket. So there's only 220 racing teams watching this happen.
Mm.
And that was dramatic. And just to watch it now, and when I've been back, a couple of times since, and just to see what's happened out there, and to kind of know what's coming eventually. I said, and I've always been pretty big about moving on. And I can move on. And we will. But I said, what's going to happen for all of us is there will be a big void to fill. It just won't be. You kind of whether I've worked there or not. There's been a few years where I haven't worked there over the last 18 years. I always checked in. You always kind of watched on your phone to see, oh, what's happening tonight, this and that.
Mhm.
It's gone now. And I, in that vein, ever since April, people have asked me, well, what's everybody going to do? Are they going to? I hope people find places to race or whatever, but that's one of those places where a lot of those people, that was everything, you know, as your home track is. But I mean, you know, I don't know if there's anything to replace that for a lot of folks. And that goes for, you know, and that's the other thing. Some places closed because there's no interest. There was still interest. I mean, and you knew there was going to be big crowds just because people, but by the same token, as far as racetracks go nowadays, we were doing okay. But it's just the scary part about it all. And maybe some of the reasons sometimes I'm hesitant to hang my hat on racing nowadays is because you just don't know how many more tracks have we seen across the country have the same fate in the last 2 years. I bet it's upwards of 20 or so, you know? So what's going to happen? Um, and who's going to stop it? You know, I hope we don't go the way of the drive-in movie. Um, but I kind of worry sometimes. So, you know, when people get miserable about this or that or what's happening, I hate to be that guy that always says, hey, stay positive, but in 10 years, it might not be around. So
Well,
enjoy it.
all the more reason to, we talked about the keyboard trolls, all the more reason to shut them up because a lot of that feeds negativity. And you know, we got enough damn negativity in this world. We don't need
And
it
it, yeah,
coming toward
yeah.
our racing community at all, period.
I
Um,
always said, I always said when I was kind of in more of a managerial role too, you know, and people complained, and obviously some of it's, you know, warranted, most of it's not. But I said, you know, we're miserable at least 5 days a week. Why do we want to come here and be miserable? You know, I mean,
yeah,
that's not what this is about, you know.
exactly. Well, you actually had brought some joy to some folks. You've been partnering up a lot with some of the bigger races doing like pit reporting. I know for the ASA Stars, you were in the pits on that one, weren't you, for the Nashville race? Or no?
I was not, but I did announce a couple of those this year. I've done pit reporting stuff for Racing America,
You were
Slinger
at the
Nationals,
Snowball Derby,
at
yeah,
Snowball. Yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah. You were there.
Nationals.
You were part of the paparazzi there at the Snowball. Um, but no, and that's been fun, and that's been I enjoy that, and I get people, you know, well, why don't you just, you know, do the play by play and get in the booth to do it? And I said, I'll tell you what, when I get down in the pit area, I'm liking that. You know, I don't got to talk the whole day. I'm right in the middle of the action. You know, it pays the same. So, I mean, but it's, you know, and then, you know, you're, like I say, you're right in it, man. And you're, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like the neat thing at Snowball this year is last year I had turn four side of the pit road, which was kind of dead. This year I had turn one side, so I'm in. You know, I'm watching Toby pace. I'm talking to him during the race, and then of course, Nassie's pit is right next. All this, so I'm right in there in the battle watching this. Gregson's right over here. All this stuff. You're climbing pit boxes. You're talking to people. That's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a it's you know Derby was one of those deals that it's been a long time coming to get there for me. It's finally schedule wise kind of worked. As far as some of the higher up folks that I work for with that operation, I'm happy it's happening now. I'll put it that way. But it's been cool these last couple of years, and I don't know if they want me next year, but I've already got it penciled in. Um, but it's neat. It's something different, and I guess what I was getting at there is it's nice to kind of be recognized. To be part of something like that, you know, kind of somebody notices what you're doing.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool to go be a part of those shows too, and I'm glad there are shows like you know because on the asphalt side, and I hope you know the Stars deal and everything else continues to trend in a right direction because on the asphalt side, we need those kind of races where everybody gets together. You know, all those, you know, all the guys get together and race, or guys and gals, or whatever. We don't really have that. It's so regional. Nice to see the news today in our region about the rules and all that, bringing that
Yeah.
together. Hopefully that, but you know, On the dirt side, you can do that a lot easier because things are a little more similar. Now, they've got their own problems too, just like we do, and nobody thinks that, but that's besides the point. But I don't think we can get totally to that level of a bunch of races and all that because these machines are pretty specialized too, and you can't just go race them 2 and 3 nights a week. But um, I'm excited to see that concept hopefully grow a little bit more on the asphalt side because I think we've got the talent. We can definitely showcase it.
Yeah.
So I hope it keeps on keeping on, and every now and then I'm happy to be a part of some of those shows. So,
Yep. And of course, the ASA Stars Tour just recently named Drew Krybeck as
mm-hmm,
their general manager. So we've got someone that we all kind of know and love going to be
mm-hmm.
super involved. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I'm happy for Drew.
I was going to ask you, this is again kind of changing subjects here, but what is your biggest microphone flub that you've ever made that you were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that?
I don't know. It's one of those deals where I'm sure I've said something. Um, and I can think of things that I really just it grinds me that oh God, I said that conversation, anything. I do know, so I can't to answer your question short, I can't think of anything quickly. But what I do know, and what I always say is, I feel like a second grade teacher sometimes because if you say something you want people to remember, nobody listens. If you screw up, everybody hears the screw up.
That's
It's like I
true.
heard that. Oh, thanks. You were, yeah. That's how it is. I mean, that's
Uh,
so. Whenever I do something like that, I'm going, oh God, I wonder who heard. Because it's, oh, I heard that. Yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
you never do live that down. For me, it was when I was in radio and I was talking about lemon pepper chicken, and it
Mm-hmm.
came out as something not pepper.
I
So,
can I can figure that out.
yeah, who wouldn't want to have some of that for dinner?
Right? Yeah,
So,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, that's
those
filling.
mistakes can happen. Yeah, feeling depends on
Right?
the
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, depends on the cut. Um,
Motion of the ocean.
how about some of your heroes? I mean, obviously you don't want to be talking about anybody that's currently racing because you'll have hurt feelings and all that. But in the older days, I mean, who were some of those racers that when you're going to the track with your dad and your family, who were the racers that were like you just loved? I mean, they were your guys.
Let me see if I can find something here. I don't know where I've got it. I could show you at least one of them. I know that near and dear to everybody's heart in that part of the world, in a sense, and having been a Rockford savant and national short track championships and all that other stuff, um, I was always kind of partial to Steve Carlson and what he was able to do year after year at Rockford. Never hardly put a scratch on the car, and doggone it if he just wasn't as relentless as could be. Um, so always kind of, and I've kind of the fun thing too, um, and I've kind of encountered this thankfully a lot is the people who you really enjoyed through the years. You always hope they're not assholes eventually when you get to meet them. Steve's always been good to me. Everybody always says that Steve's hard to interview. And yeah, he doesn't sit and talk for 20 minutes, but he always answered my questions. I mean, just talk to him. No,
Yep.
you don't say much. Well, guess what? He's not going to say much, then, you know. But so that was one. Here, let me show you. I think you can see this. This is a picture my mom took, and I never knew what year it was for sure until it was dated in the autograph. Um, can you see that?
Oh yeah, or Rich
Rich
Bickles. Oh,
Bickle,
Rich Bickle.
bread truck,
Oh my
Miller
gosh,
car. I took
classic.
this in one of the years he was retiring. Um, in I think it was like 2011 at Rockford at short track. It was Friday, you practice all day, whatever. Well, I find him and we're talking, and there's another guy that we talk a bunch whenever I see him, whatever, and he, asks things, that are, enough for you to go, hey, he really gives a damn. And that's kind of cool to me because that's another guy, that I always kind of liked growing up. And especially, you know, early 90s ish when Madison reopened and the terminal trucking car, and he's just winning everything. He was cool. I mean, he just is like, look at this guy, he looks cool. But so he signs a picture, puts the date on it, 1987, and I get some stories about that. And then it really, if you want to hear any of those stories, they are in that book. I read the same stuff he told me. It's not all G rated by any stretch, but 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 that. So there's another one. Um, Dad was always a trickle guy. I didn't get to see really the heyday of trickle, but I still got to see him, and then was lucky enough to work around Dick, especially at Fest. A few years there, right about when he quit racing, and then for the '99 when he'd show up and all that. And that was fun too. There's stories there. Um, yeah. So what's story time? So this would have been like '09. 99. So I was there that for whatever reason, I didn't have much going on and I took off and went to Fest for 4 days. It was the first time I did that. And I kind of came up with the saying that Oktoberfest is a marathon, not a sprint. Because that Thursday night it rained about 9 o'clock. Everybody scattered off, and I went and did what you do at Fest for about 6 hours. And I don't know what all I put in my body. Um, but it was a fun night. So anyway, there's a lot to that story. Being, you know, getting in McCarnes' truck and he gives me a ride back because I'm in no shape. Whatever and stuff throughout the morning. I'm struggling. But I'm supposed to that night. Besides driving the Festmobile to pace the field for the '99, I'm helping Trickle do interviews between segments. I don't remember if you remember when that happened.
Oh yeah.
So I'm supposed to trail Dick around and help him. So I'm like, oh, I'm still wearing my sunglasses, because it's like 7 at night. He's laughing. But anyway, so there's firstly after the cars get off the track, he's helping Tim Rothy. So they're going over setup, right? There's Dick, and he's and he's like, oh, just you want me to go do something, let me know. And I'm like, man, I'm just enjoying watching the master at work. You know what I mean? And then he goes, and the first person he says he wants to interview is Carlson. So here's Trickle, here's Carlson, and they interview a little bit, but they're just standing there, man, talking. I'm like, here I am, a half hungover fly on the wall, you know, listening to this, that's a pretty cool deal. But so, those guys I've mentioned, um, I always kind of dug the Chicago guys because they were pretty aggressive and they never really liked each other. I've learned through the years that the people I kind of liked, if you're really serious and you were from that part of the world, you didn't like the both of the guys that I liked, kind of thing. But I just, we were lucky. I mean, down, Chicago wise, you had Larry Schuler, Eddie Hoffman, Madison Slinger, you had Conrad, you had Robbie Reiser, one or the other, and we got to watch them both. And it's like the good old days. Everybody says about the good old days. I think we all have our good old days, and those were pretty good days too. And I like to think that nowadays these are pretty good days with who we've got around, and we're spoiled up here anyway. But
I think
those
I
are
think
those are those
people
are some of the people. Those are some of the people. John Knaus at Rockford too. Was a guy and as another guy that just he won and he won and all that stuff. And there's people on the dirt too, the Roger Dolans, the Billy Moyers, Ray Gush Juniors of the world. People like that are kind of the people I enjoyed watching through the years, and in some cases still do.
so when you have a night off, which I know is pretty darn rare, but when you do have a night off, what does Eric do?
Well, sometimes you go to the races. You know how that goes. It's real creative. I don't know. It all depends. I mean, it depends on if everybody's home. What do you go do? What's happening? I try and especially, well, I shouldn't say in the summer because in the winter too, and the basketball stuff gets going. Um, you try and find some days or some nights where you can go, maybe get some dinner, maybe do something, just kind of spend time with people. Um,
Do you have
because
hobbies though outside of racing or in radio?
I've thought about that, and it's like I don't really know what hobbies are because I think I mix my hobbies and my occupations. You know what I mean? There's some stuff that you could probably construe as a hobby that either is part of what I do or all of what I do. So I might be one of those people without a life that doesn't have a hobby, or maybe one of these things I do is my hobby, but I get paid to do it too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Funny, funny. Well, we appreciate you agreeing to come on the Racing Nuggets podcast. I know anytime I hear a video that my brother-in-law, my no good brother-in-law Bruce puts together, I appreciate whenever you're on the microphone for those. It's always fun to hear your energy level and some of your funny remarks too.
No, it's I yeah, I'm in the end, I'm just lucky to do what I do, and have the longevity too. I mean, you think about, like I say, the 25 years thing, kind of blows my mind because I'm still not that old, although I feel it a little more every morning. But it's I thank everybody that's like given me the chance, because I always feel, I probably don't have to feel this way, but I always kind of feel like, I'm always introducing myself to somebody. I always feel like I got to kind of prove myself, whether I have to or not. But everybody that's kind of given me a chance through the years, people who listen, fans who have become friends, all of that, pad your ego a little bit. But and then drivers and the folks you make relationships with too, and it kind of gets back to what you were saying too about it being fun. I mean, that's the bottom line. You have fun. You find these people. I mean, I've met a lot of people through this. Not only have I seen a lot of things, I've met a lot of people, and half of them become acquaintances. And a lot of them become friends. And if I don't do any of this, I don't know what I was watching or listening to this week, where it's like, you know, I was put here, I guess, to be here and do this and whatever, and you could go, and sometimes things don't work out, and you go, I wish I could, but you're here, you know, and you're kind of just blessed to be here and do it and be a part of it. I guess I'm just kind of talking in circles here, but
Well, that's what you'd
it's
cover is racing in
right. Yeah,
circles.
I used to have a radio show called Talking in Circles. But no, I mean, so but thanks for having me be a part of the deal. And I just, I wish it would get above zero. That'd be nice. Certainly makes spring seem a whole lot further away when you get real excited about a temperature of 1 degree today.
Funny.
I don't think my furnace is turned off on this entire call yet.
No, I know I haven't turned mine off either. The radio station's furnace did turn off today, though. I've never done radio in gloves inside until this morning.
Wow.
So it's yes, winter fun.
So final thing here. If folks want to make sure that they get a chance to hear you, what are all the different series or special events that you are already locked in for that are on your calendar?
Good Lord, I'm gonna have to find a list here. It
I
got
know
out
Ainsley Park's
there.
one of them. I saw that.
Yeah, well, more than likely, because I'll be there. Because the Badger midget thing became an option this year, and of course, it's funny because I mean, after this year, but still going into November ish, I had as much availability as I've ever had going into a year because I had very little on the map with no Rockford and nothing else for sure. So it was kind of, well, what do we do? And I've had some opportunities to maybe go do some other stuff, some bigger stuff that just didn't quite work out. Maybe it happens someday, but just trying to make it happen. But so the Badger Midget thing, which will be about 20 events for me this year, which is kind of cool. Quinn and all those people do a good job. Um, and it's close to home, but I'll get to see some new stuff. So that's cool. I'll be doing the Midwest tour stuff again as much as I can. everything I'm doing, I have very little overlap. I'll miss a couple of everything, but not a lot of any. So Badger Midgets, Midwest Tour. What else? Oh, Friday nights at Lafayette County Speedway in Darlington, where one of the places I started, that I've been back at on Fridays since 2019, and they run a really nice show. And they're good people, and a lot of us Freeport vagabonds have ended up there. So it's kind of
Is the
neat.
Freeport location still physically there, or has it all been redeveloped?
Funny, funny story about that, Dan. It has not been developed. Um, so the guy that kind of rattled the sabers to get it closed owns a mobile home park kind of off to the east a little bit. Too much noise, whatever. He used to sponsor my grandpa's cars way back when. Now he wanted that. So whatever happened. It closed quick. He got the property, and it all worked out. But so my grandpa helped till that land then, when it happened. And to this day, whether it's corn or beans or it's just sitting there in grass, you can still see the outline of the half mile after 60 some odd years of packing dirt a certain way. The old track don't budge, but all you can, it's largely imagination to what you can see. There's nothing developed there. It's in a creek bottom. It floods, so nothing's going there. Um,
Wow.
but it is still there. So those three deals mainly. I've got some other random races I'll jump on, dirt late model stuff, whatever. We'll likely jump on and do some of those pay per view things again that you talked about, PJ. And something else that's been kind of neat that's come up over the last 3 or 4 years is me working down at the place we all like to call Gateway, Worldwide
Yeah.
Technology Raceway. Came into that, at Oktoberfest because in 2020 we didn't have any high school sports in Illinois because of our wonderful governor, and so I did all 4 days of fest while Chris Blair, who's one of the head guys in charge at Gateway, was up there, and I had talked to him, but I've never met him. So we met, hit it off. A few months later, he reaches out, "Would you like to come announce the IndyCar race this year?" For sure. So that was 2021, and then couple days after that, it was announced that NASCAR was coming. So for the last couple of years, I've been down there for IndyCar and NASCAR weekends. We'll do it again this year, and there's between stuff like that, maybe a couple other things that are kind of exciting that I'll get to add to, that aren't for sure. If they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. But again, for a guy from a town of 550 people, it's kind of thrilling just to be in consideration for this sort of stuff.
I love that. I love that. You are beloved by many, Eric.
Well, it's good to be loved, I guess. But no, again, and it's just and I don't get that chance to really just thank people, but it means a lot. If I was hated, I wouldn't do it. Not that I need your attention. I guess I don't really care, but by the same token, to hear, whenever you go somewhere, I mean, like go to Pensacola and you go this way and you go that way, and there's people and it's all that. It's most supportive, this and that, and it's overwhelming sometimes. But I can't thank everybody enough for either giving me a chance or being a friend, an acquaintance, somebody to lean on, or just a fan. It's been fun. I hope it continues, but I'm not dumb enough to think it's going to go on forever. But I thank everybody.
I look forward to seeing you at the age of 80 still calling races.
My God. Flying cars and whatever else we're
Yeah.
watching, drinking moon juice and whatever else. Yeah, sure. I just hope I make 70. You're talking about 87, hit the average life expectancy. That'd be a win.
Oh, Eric, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being a part of the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to talk to you again. Stop by the RV again sometime. That was fun a few years ago when you stopped by and we
That
used to go
was.
outside. And we didn't
That
have to go
was.
anywhere. And we weren't up for 6 hours. We just hung out. So do that again.
Yeah, come out there to the retirement village and have a good time. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the marathon. That's not the
That's right.
sprint.
That's right. That's right. You can't use it all up on Thursday, man.
Yeah.
Don't blow your wad on Thursday when there's a whole nother 3 days.
Yeah, that's it.
Take care, Eric.
You bet. You bet. Thank you, guys.